Cross.
And I'm Chris.
I'm Hannah.
Uh-oh, and I'm stuck. There we go. All right. So, we had quite a bit of fun over the last few weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last week, if you joined in, we talked about VBS.
Yeah, it was fun.
We're over that now, right? We're not tired anymore.
Mm-mm.
And we are ready to start a new series.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, what do you do when science disagrees with the Bible? This is a multiple choice question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. A. Rewrite the Bible.
Okay.
B. Stop being a Christian.
Okay.
Or C. Wait.
D.
Those are your three options.
Oh. Okay. I'm going to have to do C.
C?
Wait.
That would be my choice too.
Because you know what though? It's interesting because most people would think, you either believe the Bible or you believe science.
Yeah.
And you're saying
you don't have to.
Okay.
There are a ton of examples of science, like acknowledging that the Bible is true,
supporting biblical facts.
Yes, that's
right. Yeah, absolutely. And the ones that are not, C.
You wait. Because, just as a and we're going to talk more in depth about this in a later episode, but scientists were saying that a worldwide flood was completely impossible. There's no way. There was no flood even remotely that size. Mm-hmm. That's changed slightly now. There was an article that said that a worldwide flood is still completely out of the realm of possibility, but a flood that covered a really, really, really big part of the world in a scope that cannot be replicated today is possible. And then in however many more years when we have more, research abilities and stuff, I bet then they're going to be like, okay, maybe a worldwide flood was possible.
Yeah, there's a study that one group of scientists claim that the Earth, under the Earth's crust, where we once thought was solid rock, they're saying could be a sponge that is holding uncountable mass of water.
Okay.
So let's just pretend that's true. Mm-hmm. There is now a answer to non-Christian questions about where did the water from Noah's flood come from and where did it go? Mm-hmm. Beneath our feet. Mm-hmm. So anyway, again, is it true? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
The point is to show that we don't have to ignore science to call ourselves Christian. We just probably have to be more patient.
Yes.
While the scientists catch up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's scientists, especially ones who are either atheist or like just genuinely against Christianity, they don't like admitting when the Bible is right, which is a lot of the time.
Yeah, and how I'm going to say sad, but how sad that is, because if we were to accept the Bible, we being the scientific community, okay, and shifted our focus from trying to understand how this could have happened without God to trying to figure out how God made this happen, I think we'd be so much farther ahead, because there's some really exciting things like the virgin birth. Clearly miraculous.
Yeah.
Right? But there's other things that may not be miraculous, that would be amazing to see. How did God use the laws of the universe that he created and the laws that he created to do this, to flood the earth?
Yeah.
Right? Sure, that was miraculous, but there probably is a real explanation that we could find, and how exciting that would be, and how we would be open then to really exploring that, instead of keeping our eyes closed to this part of the evidence and being stubborn and going our own way.
There actually is, several theories on the flood, and that is going to be in a little bit.
Sure.
But
anyway,
it's actually very closely related to the dinosaur extinction.
We don't like dinosaurs. Oh, we like dinosaurs. Save the dinos.
It's a little late, but we can try.
Well,
okay, technically it's not. Although, okay, there's a fish that scientists think was around well over 100 million years ago.
Actual fish.
It's a big fish. But it was around like it was a prehistoric fish.
Well, yeah, it's got to be prehistoric if it's still alive.
The breed of fish.
The species. You said the fish has been around for 100 and whatever million years.
I figured it'd be obvious that I was talking about the species.
Yeah, probably.
Anyways,
the biblical view is 6,000 years, so
yeah,
that's easier.
But yeah, I know. But there's a fish that,
I wouldn't eat it. Keep going.
Stop. There's a species of fish. Cannot pronounce the name. Koalasynth or something. I don't know. It was like in the first era that scientists recognize, right? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually kind of ties back into what we were talking about last week with like Lazarus and everything. It completely disappeared from the fossil record, like hundreds of millions of years ago, according to the scientists. The issue is we found it just roaming around, just swimming, doing its thing, just hanging out.
Probably had a cane. If it's 6,000 years old.
It's not actually the fish.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, they're on my side. They're laughing right now. Look at them laugh. And so, what's interesting is and so there, you wait and you see what happens.
Yeah.
We see too, like the fossil record, with up on top of the mountains, you learn about on top of the mountains you see fossils of sea life. Well, scientists say, the mountains formed from tectonic movements. Absolutely could happen. Absolutely. It took 100 million years. Okay, probably not. God could have done it just as easily. There's that miracle, right? Yeah. But he used the laws of physics, the tectonic plates, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely one theory. Another theory is the fish were that high up in the air because of the flood. And so, and so the point here is so do we ignore that because we just agree that can never happen? The only possible way is to exclude the Bible. Not to include all the evidence, but to exclude the evidence we don't want to look at and then find the right solution, the right answer. And that's just, if you think about it in your school, could you imagine if you did that? I do not want to use the letter E. E doesn't exist. Never existed. I disagree with anyone. And so I'm going to learn how to write the without the letter E. And I'm going to take forever to figure it out. And I'm going to go through all of these loops and hoops and it's a stupid example, but yeah. But sometimes some of this stuff is a stupid example too. And I know that you have a whole series.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get into one today, or maybe we just talk about this in general. And what does this mean to them? Because as we go through some of these, we'll talk about specific instances, biblical accounts, where we have scientific evidence or scientific theories. Again, are they true facts? But it just shows that there is that you don't have to give up Christianity. But how does a teen a teen navigate that in school? I mean, you're going into college. You've already taken a few years of college.
Yeah.
So you have this associate's degree, which means you had to have gone through some basic courses.
Yeah.
You just got out of high school 2 years ago, which means you definitely had to go through some scientific and other
1
courses.
year.
And so how do they navigate when a teacher says the Earth is 100 million or 1 billion years old?
Well, for the class, I always just kind of said, all right, and then that's the answer he gave on the tests. But that's not, you don't have to accept that in your life. The age of the Earth is a theory. It's not a, proven fact. Now, theories hold a lot of weight. I mean, there's been a lot of evidence that's gone into it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's still a theory. It can be disproven at the drop of a hat. So just wait it out, really. That's what I've always done, and it's paying off.
And I found that that theories are exactly that. And the scientific community is the first to acknowledge that a theory is nothing more than a theory, and they're the first to discard one as new evidence comes to light, and that's wonderful. That's what you're supposed to do. But again, though, there's evidence that is being excluded from investigation, from being excluded from being included. That doesn't make any sense. From their research. And I think that's the challenge. That's what frustrates me, because they won't even look at it. They won't even consider it. It has to be something else. And yet we're the ones, Christians are the ones that are I can't think of the word now, said that, we're the ones that are criticized for not looking at the evidence, for being closed-minded. You don't even look at science, you discard it. And we're saying, no, we embrace science, because science is the study of the laws of the universe, right? Whether it's molecular for biology, whether it's, astral for astrology or whatever, astrophysics and on and on. We embrace that. Why? Because we know God created it. And we want to understand why, how, and to what use. And it's fascinating to see God work. And it makes a lot of these answers easier to come by.
Yeah.
And so I would challenge you to, as you're going through school, when they say it's 1 million years old, when they say dinosaurs and humans didn't coexist, it's a theory, and that's fine. But don't let that challenge your faith. And don't for a second believe anybody who tells you that if you're a Christian, you have to ignore science. That is just not true. So
it's also annoying because a lot of historians will look at things that are obviously fictional. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is the first, I think it's one of the earliest known stories, like just novels that were just told as entertainment almost. They'll take the Epic of Gilgamesh and they'll say, okay, in this story, this and this happened. What are they basing that off of? Where? And then they'll go through and they'll like retroactively figure out what they were talking about. And they'll find like historical evidence for that actually happening and that being what the book's based off of. But then when it comes to the Bible, they're like, it's fictional. Who cares?
Right. They don't even look.
And it's frustrating. The first example that I have for this, which we don't have to go completely into today.
We can.
We can.
Maybe
but
today is a good day to just
talk.
Talk.
Yeah. but in the very first one, we're looking at, Joshua and how the sun and the moon stopped. And the scientists that were studying this decided to take the Bible with the same weight that they would give anything that was written in that century, where they're just taking it as fact until it's proven not to be fact.
Okay.
And then they were cross-referencing it from the few other historical documents that existed at the same time. And from there, they figured out how the sun and moon would have stopped, and even confirmed that the Israelites were in Canaan at that time. So it's neat that when you do look at the Bible as a just objective historical document, you get accurate results.
Right. Exactly. And, going back to Noah's flood and assuming that below the Earth's crust, that solid material is really a material that is more like a sponge in that it absorbs water. Okay. Again, let's just say that's true. 50 years ago, we didn't have the technology, I guess, to discover that. But we do today. Well, 50 years ago then, they said, well, we don't have that, right? They don't know that. We look at the ground, it's solid. Where's the water? There is no water.
Yeah.
Therefore, we have made our decision. Bible is false. Oh, by the way, that's a theory. But the Bible is false. That's a fact. And, right, it just goes to show you, just wait. So, here's a question, though. There is peer pressure. And I'm going to use it bad. Usually when you talk about peer pressure, it's bad. Peer pressure with and among your friends and your school environment to accept all of science's theories as fact to the detriment of what you believe or what you're told on Sunday. And so how do you combat that? Because it does chip away at your faith. So how do you ensure that it doesn't slowly begin to kind of chip away and you begin to start questioning it?
What I did was I looked it up. I tried to find the most unbiased, just normal sources that are just reporting the facts as I could. And then from there, I found one article about did dinosaurs exist 6,000 years ago, right? And then from there, I found other things within that I could research, like how did the dinosaurs go extinct, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the theories is a massive flood knocked most of them out. But I found that the deeper you look into things, and you could be looking at it from an entirely secular perspective, the deeper you look into things, the more it points to God. So just keep researching it. Don't take, what you're learning at school is not everything there is to know. There's so much else. There have been a lot of attempts to have creationism taught alongside evolutionism in schools. All of them have failed so far. But creationism is another theory. And as for whether or not it should be taught in schools, that's an entirely different debate. But I'd say also just make sure you're looking at it from an unbiased perspective, because there are a lot of very biased perspectives on both sides of it.
Absolutely.
And I think the most glaring example of that is when you look up, how old are the dinosaurs? Obviously, your first results are always going to be, they're 150 million years old, or that type of thing. And if you go into the articles and stuff, I mean, I've seen headlines that literally say creationists are wrong and here's why. You're just like, and then it's just bashing creationists throughout the entire article. And I've seen on the other side of things where the creationists are saying that the evolutionists are wrong because of the Bible, which 100% the Bible is a fact. But if you look a bit deeper, you can find even secular beliefs that back up the Bible, which is what I'm going to be focusing on for this. But.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I want to focus on that just a little bit because one of the things I would ask that you do too, obviously your own research, is to talk to your church leaders. They have material. They come across this every day.
Yeah.
And so work with them. If you don't have a home church, reach out to Hannah.
I will be giving you guys all of my sources. And then from there you can find a whole bunch of other sources. But yeah.
But also understand too that what you were saying, I want to emphasize. There are scientists out in the world who say God does not exist. Creationism or Christianity is 100% false. Don't believe any of it. If you do, you're crazy. That's one extreme. That makes no sense at all. But there's another extreme too. There are Christians who say the same thing about scientists. They say, must ignore science. You cannot believe anything that the scientists say. Because if you do, you are not Christian. And that's just absurd.
It is.
That's saying what God has done, what God has created, you have to ignore?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Scientists, there are many, many scientists who are Christian. And there's a reason, because there's many, many people who are not extreme, who do hold that there is a connection between what we read about as fact in the Bible and what we see in the world. And they're trying to uncover that.
Yeah.
There are plenty. You don't hear about them, but there are plenty. So just keep that in mind. Scientists are awesome. They learn. We have medicine because of science. We've saved countless lives because of science. We've gone to Mars because of science. Science is really awesome. They're just not 100% right.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
So this series, we're going to be talking about that. And
Yeah.
we're going to be looking at, I think, what's the first one?
The first one we're going to be looking at is the sun and moon stopping back in the Old Testament in Joshua.
Okay. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Because the Bible says it stopped.
Yeah.
I have never seen it.
No.
And there is evidence, again, take it with a grain of salt, right? We're not
of course.
scientists, but the whole point of this is to show that you don't have to ignore science, embrace science, but compare it to the Bible. If the Bible says that the earth was created in a day, God said. So we have to believe God. He knows more than we do.
Yeah. A little bit.
And we can just wait.
We'll just wait. Yeah. So we're going to be talking. We have the eclipse, which I decided to do first because pretty much everything else is dinosaurs. So if you don't like dinosaurs, I'm really sorry, but we will be talking about dinosaurs for at least 6 weeks. So you're going to suffer. You'll live.
Yeah, but after it's done, we'll be done talking about dinosaurs. That topic will be extinct. Have a good week. We'll see you next Friday.
See.